الحمد لله. قال المؤلف الإمام الغزالي رحمه الله تعالى عنه قال في كتاب الأربعين أو أصول الدين من الإحياء المدين, purifying the heart from blameworthy characteristics. Now, we were talking about earlier about looking at the heart, and you've already heard a hadith from Sheikh al-Kareem where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that there's a piece of flesh in the body that if it is made pure, the whole body is pure. And if it is filthy and or spoiled, the whole body is spoiled. And verily that piece of flesh is the heart. And as I mentioned earlier, most people love to talk about intellectual things because it's kind of self-serving and it kind of helps the nufus and things of this nature, but very difficult to take care of the issues of the heart. And it is difficult because there's a lot of things that have to go into the purification of the heart, and that's not an easy thing. And inshallah, we're going to just kind of scrape some of the surface, just a little bit of the surface, in our time together talking about some of these issues. And one of the first things, again, that comes with the purification of the heart is contemplation. That is the first thing, is contemplation and reflection, right? Contemplation is, again, thinking about, not even, what we get from the Quran, yes. What we read from the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, yes. Reading the Shama'il, right? About the characteristics of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. And not even just the Prophet ﷺ, we should be reading both men and women should be reading about the Hayat al-Sahaba, right? The lives of Sahaba. And then also reading Hayat al-Nisa, Hawla Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, about the women that were around the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? And I say that both men and women need to read these things because we should know what we should be expecting from our men, and we should know what we should expect from our women, and more importantly, what we should look at how we wish our children to be. And there are great lessons in these things. But in terms of our reflections, we should reflect on these things. Again, the lessons that you're getting, you should reflect on. If you can read hadith, or from the what's in the text, Gardens of the Righteous, Riyadh al-Salihin, thank you. Reading hadith from this text, or even if you can open up Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, whatever. They used to say Junaid, may Allah be pleased with him. When he was a young boy, he wanted to study. His family wanted him to stay working as a little shepherd. He didn't want to be a shepherd. He wanted to study Deen. So eventually, he just left the sheep. He just left his sheep and went off to the city to go and study Islam. And but the thing is, he had nowhere to live, and so he lived near the beach in a cave. He would go into the city, and he was sitting to the classes of hadith. He'd hear the scholar recite one hadith and then talk about the explanation of that particular hadith. And after you got that one hadith and you got the explanation of it, the Sheikh went on about other hadith, but he wanted one. After you got that one hadith and got the explanation of that hadith, he would go back to his cave, and he would sit in that cave contemplating that hadith, contemplating that commentary on the hadith. And he'd look at it from all kinds of different angles, and he just wanted, it wasn't just about, just memorizing what the Sheikh said and trying to memorize what the Sheikh said. No, he was looking at it and looking at its application. How do I add this to my life? How do I present this hadith to other people depending on what the subject matter is? How do I internalize it? And that's basically what he did. He internalized the hadith. He would not leave his cave until he internalized that particular hadith. And then he went back for another one. You understand what I'm getting at? That what we're learning and what we're doing is something that has to be internalized. Internalized. Not eternalized, but internalized. What you study has to become a part of you. what you're going over, what you're going over has to become a part of you. It can't just be something that we just have, you know, and then you kind of regurgitate it when you get a chance to regurgitate it. You know, you can sound slick to your friends or to other people you're talking to at work or something else like this. We have to, you know, one of the things our teacher used to say is that what is knowledge? Knowledge is not what you've memorized from the books, it's what you're living. You understand? It's what you're living. So when you speak, you're not just speaking from the text, you're speaking from a point of view of experience. You understand? I like to liken this to, like, you know, those old movies where, you know, the guy was a nerd and then they made him cool, right? And then he became popular and all this kind of garbage, right? Well, the thing is, if you're a nerd, you're just a nerd. I don't care. You can't just be cool, because being cool is a state of being. It's something that you just are naturally. It's just what you present. Now, you may become popular, and then eventually, just after time, it becomes you. You don't just become like that. You don't just become cool like that. You're still a nerd. You know, I used to have a friend of mine. He was a real nerd when I was in college. He just became a cool nerd. You know, that's as far as it went. You know what I mean? And over time, it just kind of, things changed and just kind of became a part of his person. You understand what I'm saying? So likewise, in this has to become part of your person. Forgive me for my little analogies, but that's just Jamal Ud-Deen. But nonetheless, we have to internalize our knowledge so that what we're learning becomes a part of us. And that is part of helping us to purify the heart. And the first thing and that's reflection. Now, contemplation means looking at ourselves and understanding who we are, where we are. And sometimes it's not easy being real with oneself. Right? Being realistic. Why do I have a problem? Why do I feel I need to say something every time people say something? Why do I always have to be a part of the conversation? Why do I always have to try and sound intelligent when I really don't know what I'm talking about? Why do I need to be seen by people? Why do I have this urge? You know, and just even being able to recognize the fact that you need to be seen by people is something big. But really, we have to start taking our inventory of ourselves, of our conduct, of our perspective, of the way that we are. And it's not to say, you know what, I'm okay with me. No. You shouldn't be okay with you. And you should be looking for those things that we can do in order to make the necessary changes. Right? We always should be, as we keep talking about perfection, we should always be seeking perfection. There's always something we can do better, and we need to try to find those things that we can do better. You know, if you're suffering from trauma, or you're suffering from, you know, whatever it is, you know, you got daddy issues, you got mommy issues, you got brother issues, you got this issue of wanting to be needed or to feel validation, you know, validated by other people, or whatever the case may be. You need to find these things out, and then learn how you can redirect them so that what you're doing, your validation is with Allah. You're only looking to Allah for validation. You're only looking to Allah for understanding. You don't care about the people knowing who you are. You're more worried about the angels knowing who you are. You're more concerned about Allah calling your name out to the angels. Look at my servant and their dhikr of me. Look at my servant who is doing these things out of their love for me. Not fear, but love for me. That's how you want to be known, you know. Look at my servant up at night worshiping. Or look at my servant struggling to get up at night so that they can worship. That's what we want to be known by, not by people. You know, there was a story of the Sheikh who lived in this village. And we're talking about this. I should wait to the video section, but I've already started, so oh well. The Sheikh was known for his worship. He was known for the way he used to give a lot of charity. He was known for, you know, just really being, you know, his recitation of Quran, because he used to read Quran so much, and he was always up praying and these kind of things. So one day, some people came to visit the village, and they were being shown around, and they came into a masjid, And they were showing them the masjid, and they were like, oh, wow, it's a beautiful masjid. And they were like, okay, mashallah, it's beautiful. And they saw the Sheikh over there praying. They asked, who's that man? I said, oh, that's the great Sheikh, and he's so knowledgeable, he's so generous, and he gives so much of himself, and he's just a really wonderful man. And so, what's he doing? I said, oh, he's probably praying some nawafil. And the Sheikh in his slot looked over and said, and I'm fasting today too. Right? So now the question is, what was he doing all that worshiping for? Was it for Allah? Obviously not. Because he loved the praise. So much so he had to break his prayer and let everybody know what else I'm doing. Because you don't know I'm fasting, but I just want to throw that in there, So again, this is a disease of the heart. And the point is, it affects even the people of knowledge. Or perceived knowledge. So he says, Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. He who purifies it is surely successful. Right? He who purifies it surely is successful. Purifying what? He says purification here means cleansing. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said purity is what? Half of faith. Right? So understand from this that the perfection of faith is in purifying the heart from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like and adorning it with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Right? Purity is what? Half of faith. Yet how can one be busy with purification while not knowing what is filthy? He says, we shall therefore mention the blameworthy character traits, which are many. However, the branches derive from 10 principles. Now, there's another hadith attributed to the Prophet ﷺ where he says that tahara shart al-iman. Right? That purification is a condition for iman. Here he's saying it's half of faith, but there's another hadith attributed to the Prophet ﷺ in which he says that what? At-tahara shart al-iman. That it is a condition for iman. And tahara, purification, as here he says it means cleansing. We say linguistically, cleansing like cleansing a shirt. Right? Shar'an, we would say tahara is the removal of filth from one's person, clothing, or place. Again, shar'an meaning the sharia meaning the technical meaning, when we're talking about like we do things like that, we say is the removal of filth from one's person, from one's body, or clothing, or one's place, meaning where you're going to pray. So we want to remove filth. Now this also can be applied to just everyday life. You remove the removal of filth from my house, because my house is nasty. So how can I pray and have a good, clear mind when my house is disgusting? There's no organization, papers and things all over the place, throwing them back in the days. I don't even want to touch my own floor. Prayer matter's dirty. I haven't washed in weeks. Smell like heat. Place needs to be clean. Hard to be in a spiritual state when my clothing is filthy. It's different if I'm traveling, but I'm not traveling. I'm just not clean. We always feel different after a big shower. Even cleaning meaning like removal of the hairs in the underarms. We just say grooming ourselves. Let's make it plain. Grooming ourselves. When we groom ourselves, meaning removal of hairs and things like that from our body, even that makes you feel a lot more fresh, a lot more clean, and you feel a lot more like, I don't know about you, that's how I feel. I go, okay, all right, now, we can start doing some things here. And my mind feels a lot clearer, my body feels fresh, I feel different. All Right? There's more of a connection because there's another level of purity that's going on. So now he says, well, let's talk about what are the things that cause the heart to become filthy. And the very first thing that he talks about is gluttony, as the first principle. Right? He says, and this is very interesting because he says gluttony is among the greatest sources of harm to the religion. For the stomach is the wellspring of desires. And this deeply, he says, it's the most harmful thing to the religion. I mean, deen, meaning our way of life. Because it is the wellspring of desires. And we never really think about this, but you're going to see. He said it derives the desires of the genitals. Then, if the desire for food and sex becomes overpowering, another desire comes forth, which is love of wealth. For one cannot attain the fulfillment of the first two desires except through it. You know, romance without finance is a nuisance. No finance, no romance. See? He's already saying the women like money. Brothers go chasing dunya, trying to get the big house, the big car. For what reason? To get the women. You get the haircut, and we'll keep it Islamic, brother. Get the haircut, get the beard trimmed up real nice. Get the new kufi with the little designs and embroidery in it. Why? Because you got to stand out. Right? You got to have a nice car. Got the nice stereo system, pumping up the qasidas. When you roll up in front of the masjid on Jummah. Why? Because you scouting. You want to get noticed by the sisters. So everything that you do now, you ain't doing it for the sake of Allah. You're doing it for what? Attention. Which now becomes an issue of what? Riyah. Riyah is showing off. Or what as we define it as actions that are done for people. And the opposite of that is ikhlas, which are actions that are done for Allah faqat. Right? They're actions that are done for the sake of Allah only. So this is what he's saying. This is one of the reasons why there's a destruction of the way of life. Because when you start looking for dunya, and even the sisters want to start looking good too. So now they're chasing after that dollar so they can hook up the new hijab, get the latest heels. You want to look sharp in your nice new little dresses or overgarments. You know? Some sisters want to get a little makeup. Some sisters go even further, get the little fake eyelashes. Got a hijab, but only got on weave anyway. All right? Getting them nails done. In Atlanta, we say, they get my nails did. You know, you got to get out there and you got to step it up. You're trying to step up your game. You're trying to take it to the next level. And that's what a lot of us do. And the other ones will say, well, I don't get into all that, brother. Okay, but there are some who don't, but you find there are other ways. The shaitan, and this is the thing, shaitan is tricky. You got to remember that he is tricky. You spend a lot of time, understand what Al-Ghazali is saying, you spend a lot of time in food and eating. It leads to other things. Even people who go organic. Because for some people, being organic and when other people are not doing it, it can lead to a level of arrogance. In many different ways, because organic food costs more. So now you're looking at people, see, they're not willing to spend money on their deen, on good health, and good health is part of deen. Now you're looking down on people. Now you're making judgment calls on other people. And when you start doing that, you start putting a wedge, or you start driving a wedge between yourself and other people, because now it's like, I'm organic, I do this, you don't. I can't be eating at your house because, your food, forget just being halal, it's not even organic. You see what I'm saying? There's all kinds of ways. Shaitan has tons of tricks. And we just fall right into them. He says, after he talks about the desire for, food and sex, he said it leads to what? Love of wealth. Then he says, and then the desire for fame derives from desire for wealth. For it is difficult to acquire wealth without it. And fame doesn't mean you become a celebrity and you got yourself a reality show. It means also that you're looking to get that next job position where you become a manager or where you become a supervisor or you become a lead or you're in a position now where you're getting more money because you're going to get that certification or this certification in order to get a better position. Now you're chasing after position, i.e. you're chasing after dunya. Because you need status. It's always funny when you were broke, you're living in this apartment that's probably only like $600-700 a month. It ain't clean, it ain't the best place. You ready to get out, you get a little job, a little money, and you start thinking you can do everything. And then when you wind up living beyond your own means. Now you got an apartment, yeah, it's much better, but it costs too much. Even though you got more money, you got nothing to show for it because all your money is going into your bills. You can't even afford to buy yourself some nice clothes and things like that, except that you're going to push a bill over to the side so you can go ahead and buy that, and then hopefully, the next paycheck, you'll be able to cover that, plus the other bills and everything else. Now you get caught in that trap of living check to check, check to check, check to check. And you're never getting ahead. You can't even save. Because now you've got to push things around so you can keep it going. To keep what going? The facade. The facade that you're making it. The facade that you've got, that you've stepped up and you're at another level. Because everybody wants to be on that other level. But nobody wants, but the thing is, we want to be on that other level of what? Dunya. We don't want to be on that other level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want to be in that other realm spiritually. And that's what really matters. He says, upon obtaining fortune and fame or seeking them, all spiritual diseases such as pride, ostentation, envy, hate, enmity, and others crowd together. Boom, there it is. Now you become envious of other people because that person's got what you have or got a little bit more than you and you don't like it. Or why is that person getting this when I should have that? You start looking down on people, you feel like you're entitled to receive things that you're not even entitled to, such as titles or the way people talk about you or should view you or other things like this, and you feel people should be doing things for you because you're doing different things, or they should be treating you a certain kind of way because you feel that you have obtained some false sense of level. You're just living a delusion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do not let this dunya delude you. For this life is nothing more than what? Mere play. But we fall right into that trap. He says the origin of all of this is the stomach. And that's something. You never thought just a little bit of food, that little extra bite, could cause so many problems. Never thought that going back for seconds, some places, some people thirds, was going to cause, it could possibly, potentially cause this many problems. He says, for this reason, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam attached great importance, and he says, to voluntary hunger, meaning fasting, saying that there is no practice more beloved to Allah than hunger and thirst. He also said, he who stuffs his belly will not enter heaven's realm, and the master of all actions, what is hunger? He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also said, contemplation is half of worship, and small portions of food is worship itself. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, the best of you to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is he who reflects and is hungry the longest. The most loathsome of all of you to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is anyone who eats, drinks, and sleeps excessively. So you want to fight the nafs? Fast. You want to fight the nafs? Fast. You find yourself getting, especially for those who are single, you find yourself excessively in need of, shall we say, adult activity. I hope you understand what I mean, because we have kids here. Fast. And I do understand that sometimes fasting one day is not going to do it. You're going to need to be fasting for about 2, maybe 3 days. But fasting is not just fasting going without food. It means reading Quran. It means doing dhikr. It means trying to remember Allah. It means trying to get the heart in tune with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean just going without food. And for anybody married or not that wishes to try to take on the nafs, I want you to first understand taking on the nafs is not going to be easy, because the nafs are going to fight. It's going to fight back. You know, Al-Ghazali talks a little bit about this as we go along, but it will fight back. Have you ever tried to lose belly weight, belly fat? You started losing all the work you're doing, it looks good, everything's great, and then for some point you start thinking, I can slack up just a little bit, because I'm almost where I want to be, so I can slack up just a little bit, and then all of a sudden your gut is bigger than it was when you started. Right? It came back like Montezuma's revenge. Like, how did that happen? Because the nafs didn't like the fact that you did all that work and pushed it down. It wants to be fed. The nafs want attention. The nafs want your attention. It wants to be fed. It wants to be praised. It wants to be satiated. So when you take on the issue of fighting the nafs, understand it's a battle. It's not going to be easy. You'll be saying to yourself, let me just go ahead and get that chocolate chip cookie. You're like, no, I shouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. And then you hear a little voice, oh, it's just one. You go for a walk afterwards. Talk to the dad, you know what, maybe I'll go ahead and get that one. That's the nafs talking. It's trying to find a way back to that food. It's trying to find a way back to that meal. So we have to take everything in stride, and we'll talk about, because the Imam Al-Ghazali does offer some advice, some recommendations as to how to fight this. But understand, it's going to be a battle. We used to say that if we were to if we could reach in ourselves and pull out our nafs and pull out our souls, the nafs would be like this big old fat, ugly beast. And the soul will be this little skeletal, anorexic looking thing that also may be kind of grotesque in look because it's been starved. Because we feed the nafs more than we feed the soul. The food of the soul is the dhikr of Allah. Dhikr of Allah, recitation of Quran, the prophetic dhikrs, salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even acts of obedience is food for the soul. The nafs is everything else. And we easily feed the nufus. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also said, the son of Adam does not fill a vessel worse than his belly. A few bites to strengthen his back are enough. If there is no getting away from it, then a third of his belly for his food, and a third for his drink, and a third for his breath. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also said, verily, Satan flows through the son of Adam like the flow of blood, so let him tighten his paths with hunger and thirst. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Aisha radiallahu anha, continuously knock on the gate of paradise and it will be open for you. She said, how do I knock continuously? He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, with hunger and thirst. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also said, eat and drink for only half of your bellies, for indeed it is a part of what? Prophethood. So, going without food and going without drink. Now, almost every, let's say, spiritual culture understands that the path to enlightenment is found in loss of food and drink. Every spiritual culture understands this. You wish to have clarity of mind. You wish to see things that you've never seen before and understand things you never understood before. Go without food. Go without drink. I mean, for those of you who want, we all go through Ramadan. We've all experienced Ramadan. But for those who are truly looking to develop themselves spiritually during the month of Ramadan, you can attest to what we're saying. When you're going without food, you're going without drink, but your focus is Allah, things become a lot clearer to you. Haven't you ever noticed that at work you seem to get things done a little bit better? Don't you notice it's funny how you save so much money? You're not thinking about how to spend, you're thinking about Allah. And then at the end of the month you wonder, man, I got all this cash. How is it like this month I kept all the same money? This month, this next month outside of Ramadan, I didn't really do much different, but I don't have as much money. How does that happen? Why is it during the month of Ramadan I felt energized, I felt ready to go? Now that Ramadan is over, I'm feeling like I need a nap. And some people say, oh, but you know, when I fast, I'm tired all the time. True. But after you had a little bit of rest, man, usually that tiredness really begins in the first, couple days. By day 3, 4, it's just normal. And you're able to think clearer, and you're able to do things better. Unfortunately, most of us, when we're fasting during Ramadan, we're looking at how much weight we can lose. People all open the mirror. Oh, yeah, I'm looking pretty good. Brother, it was just day 1. You're already in the mirror, jumping on the scale. Talking about, I got to count my calories. And then you missed out on all the spiritual benefit because all you were concerned about was losing weight. And then once Ramadan is over, well, you just wind up gaining that weight right back. And now you're upset. Now you lost out on weight and you lost out on the spiritual opportunity to grow. So, our goal here is to develop and grow those spiritual muscles, to grow that level of consciousness that allows us to understand and hopefully see the true reality, and that reality meaning with a capital R, meaning Al-Haq, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to destroy the nafs. We have to get them tamed. In other words, we've got to learn how to ride the beast instead of the beast riding us. It's like we got a little dude on our necks with reins in our mouth, turning our head left and right. Like we're the horse. Go right, we go right. Go left, we go left. Eat this, we eat that. Take that, take that. Say this, say that. We're worried about this. Oh, read Quran? No, that's not going to happen. You can think about it, but we're not doing it. Dhikr? Oh, we know we should do it, but we're not going to do it. I don't care what you plan, we're not doing any dhikr. Because the beast is riding us. It's controlling how we act. So now we want to look at how can we control it. He says, of the benefits of hunger, perhaps you desire to know the secret of attaching great importance to hunger and the aspect of its relation to the path of the afterlife. Know that it has many benefits, yet their foundations go back to 7 things. The first of them is clarity of the heart and keen insight. Okay? For indeed, satiation begets idolatry and blinds the heart. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, whoever deprives his belly, his thinking is greater and his heart is perspective. Again, you receive what? Clarity. Now I said it, but before me the Prophet ﷺ said it. Whoever deprives his belly, his thinking is greater and his heart is perceptive. It is well known that the key to happiness is knowledge, which is not attained except with clarity and illumination of the heart. For this reason, to be hungry is to knock on the gate of paradise. And what do we say the gate of paradise is? Or what was said, not we, but the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say the gate of paradise is? Is hunger and thirst. So we should fast as much as possible. Mondays and Thursdays, and the white nights. Meaning those nights where the moon is full on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every month. Every lunar month. Mondays and Thursdays, and what? Those lunar months. Lunar days, excuse me. The 13th, 14th, and 15th. Now, as I said earlier, we want to become people of experience, not just people of talk. Or as my teacher would say, we want to be people of haqiqah, not surah. We want to be people who have realized, not people who just have this picturesque appearance. That being the case, I am asking each and every one of you, to be scientific. Let's be scientific a little bit here. Let's put what we're reading to test. It is my challenge to you for the next Islamic month to fast on your Mondays and Thursdays and those 3 days out the month. And tell me, actually I want you to do it for 2 months, and you tell me that you don't see a difference. You don't feel your mind clearing up. You don't feel a difference in your whole person. I don't mean just because you lost some weight or because you're hungry all the time. I'm talking about spiritually. Do you feel something different? In Atlanta, some years ago, I used to work in a madrasa, and we did what we called the Sunnah Challenge. And what we did was, because we had just read a hadith in Imam Ahmed's Sunnah called Kitab al-Zuhd, how the Prophet ﷺ, all he ate was dates. He got nothing else, just ate dates. So I said, part of our Sunnah challenge is for the next 3 days, we're just going to eat nothing but dates. I mean, absolutely nothing. You can have water, you can have milk. No pop. Oh, I can say pop, but you got to understand that word. Down there is like soda. Anyways, no pop, no juice, nothing. Water or milk and dates, 3 days. But you got to read the Quran, you got to do your dhikr and things like that, and I want you to tell me how you feel. And to be honest with you, no one really made it beyond 2 days. People got tired of eating dates. Because, everything is dates. Snack is dates, dinner is dates, breakfast is dates, lunch is dates. But all these students, and mind you, they were all like teenagers, all talked about how they felt differently. How they felt a little bit differently spiritually. Internally, they felt like a little bit better. It was just that they were just too hungry. The hunger got them, and that's why they had to start eating regular food again. So what I'm saying to you is, I want you to test what we're talking about out. Don't listen to this and take notes. I want you to try it. If only for a little time. I'm saying do it for the next 2 months. All right, that's 8 weeks. Mondays, Thursdays, and then the 3 days in the middle of the month. Try it and see if you don't find a difference. Which again, you got to be reading Quran, you got to be doing your dhikr. You can't just be fasting, just going through life. I want you to remember Allah as you're doing it, and see if you don't find yourself feeling a little different, a little bit more control of yourself, a little bit more illuminated. He said the second benefit of hunger is the softness of the heart. To the extent that one feels the pleasure of conversing with Allah and being affected by the remembrance of worship. Junayd, may Allah be pleased with him, or have mercy upon him and benefit us through him, said, one of you will make a barrier between himself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with food, and then desire to find the sweetness of conversing with Allah. Like, and he said like with an exclamation point. Meaning, how can you think that you're going to sit here and just fill yourself up and think that you're still going to be able to converse with Allah like just completely openly? He's saying that, the veil is being placed in there by the food that you're eating, that you're gaining too much. Your gluttony is becoming a veil between you and your Lord. So remove it, so that you can enter into the sweetness of the divine presence. He says, you well know that the states of the heart, whether fear and apprehension, softness and intimacy, or brokenness and awe, are from the keys of the gates of paradise. Again, gates of paradise, hunger and thirst. Even if the gate of knowledge is above these. He says, and hunger is a way of knocking at these gates as well. He said the third benefit to hunger is the humbling of the ego and the removal of arrogance, right? And imperiousness from it. Imperiousness is like dominating, like a dominating trait. It's arrogance, but it becomes like an aggressive form of arrogance. He says, nothing breaks the ego like hunger. Imperiousness calls to the heedlessness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a gate to hell and sorrow. To be hungry is to close that gate, and in closing the gate of sorrow is opening the gates of happiness. And for this reason, when the world was presented to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no, I'd rather be hungry one day and sated another day. For if I am hungry, I am patient and humble, and if I am sated, I am what? Grateful. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it becomes important for us to look at where we are. Hunger brings us to the point of knocking on the gates of paradise. Gluttony leads to arrogance. It leads to pride. It leads to envy. It leads to hatred. It leads to enmity between each other. So if we've got all these other issues, how can we expect to be within the presence of the divine? Because, one of the things about envy, Imam Al-Haddad, he says, people who are envious of other people, and envious means that you don't like someone having something, that you feel you should have it and not them, or they shouldn't just have it at all. He says this is the pinnacle of stupidity. For a person to be envious is the pinnacle of stupidity. Why? Because your real problem is not with the person and what they have received. Your problem is with Allah giving that person what they've received. Because you remember that no one gets anything except that Allah has willed it for them. And Allah told us in the Quran, I give to those whom I please as well as I take from those whom I please. So if we understand that Allah is the giver of all things, and then you got a problem with somebody having something, whether it be position or whether it be material items or whatever, the fact is that you have a problem truly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not that person, but Allah for giving it to them in the first place. Now, do you not think that that's going to put a wedge between you and your Lord? So what's the pinnacle of stupidity? You're a fool. An absolute utter fool, because now you're messing yourself up in your relationship with your Creator. And if we know that these are the things that are causing us problems, don't we want to get rid of these things? The fourth is that tribulation is from the gates of paradise. Because tribulation is to experience the taste of torment, through which dread of torment in the afterlife increases. A human being cannot torment himself with anything in the way that he can with hunger. For indeed, he needs no affectation for it, and other benefits are connected to it as well. Through hunger, he consistently experiences Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tribulation, which exhorts to compassion and feeding the needy, whereas the sated is heedless of the hungry person's pain. Do you get that? Do you guys understand that? I'm kind of like asking you. Yeah. You all understand that, sisters?
Elaborate.
Okay, alhamdulillah, thank you. So what he's saying is that he says that tribulation, he says part of the gates of paradise. We said the gates of paradise come from hunger and thirst. So it's hard. In other words, it's difficult sometimes. Because, you could be doing this and it's in the middle of the summer and it's hot. It's not easy. Or, for instance, you're at work, right? Like my job was just, what's that Indian holiday? Diwali, right? And they had all this food at my job. And it just happened to be a day I'm fasting. And I'm looking. Fragrances. Nice spices are hitting you. And you're just like, man, I'm going to try some of that. Yeah, let me just go back to my desk. It's hard. You just want to eat because you think to yourself, it's only a sunnah fast. I don't have to do this. I can go and eat. Or I can say I can be in a situation in which I'm feeling really weak that day because maybe I missed my suhoor, but I'm fasting anyway. And now I'm really feeling it. This is a tribulation in a sense. Or it could be that I'm going through some physical hardships. Allah says, don't say that you believe and think that you will go untested in that for what you said you believe in. So if I say I believe in Allah and I'm fasting because I want to get closer to Allah, don't think that it's just going to be easy. Allah's not going to just make it easy. In some cases, for some He will. But for some of us, He will not. And you'll be going through a lot of things. However, when you're going through this tribulation, what happens is, for those who are consciously understanding what's happening, you become aware that this is nothing compared to the torment of the hereafter. This is nothing like what I may experience in my grave. There was a story of and this is a true story, of a sister, this lady in Pakistan. And a lot of my Pakistani friends were telling me about this because they were in the village when this happened. This girl was a model. And she went on television telling people, because she didn't wear hijab, she makeup and everything else, long nails, painted up, whatever. And she was on TV telling sisters, you don't need to wear hijab, you don't need to do this, just be you and be beautiful and enjoy life and just understand that what's in your heart and all this business, right? Well, then she wound up dying. Not because of what she said, but like a little later, after that television program that she was on, she died. And when they buried her, one of her cousins was at the janazah, and he was helping put the dirt in. And when he went home, he recognized his wallet was missing, and he assumed, okay, it went into the grave of my cousin. Because that's the only place I had, that's the only thing I did all day. So when he went back and started digging it up a little bit, he went a little too deep. And he said he opened up a part of the dirt and a flame, poof, shot out at him. He was like, oh, subhanAllah. And he looked and he saw his cousin, hair burning on flames, and she was scratching her face. That was her torment in the grave. Torment is real. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're going through the tribulations in this life and the things that you're feeling, you should be, or inshallah, at some point you're going to think about the hereafter. And when you think about the hereafter, you can't think about the hereafter and not think about torment. You can't think about the hereafter and not think about the possibility that Allah is going to place you into the hellfire. That is a possibility. And even before you get judged, you got to be in the grave. And if you're going to be in the grave, you're going to be questioned. You don't know if you're going to be that person when the angels ask you the questions. Are you going to be like, when they say, who's your Lord? You'll be like, Allah! What was your religion? Islam. Who was your prophet? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You don't know if you're going to be that person. You'll be that person, who's your Lord? Too late. Ain't no, What do you mean, Hammer comes down, ka-clack. All creation hears of it except for human beings. And then you're told, look at where you were going. They show you paradise and they flip you around and say, look at where you are going. He said, look where you were going? Now look at where you are going. And they show you the hellfire and then your torment begins. The grave begins to close in on you to the point where they say, where the ribs begin to fold over each other. And then the torment begins for you. So for the person who's spending time in fasting, you're going to contemplate at some point some aspect of what we're talking about. And you become more alert, is what he's saying. You become, what do we say? Hypersensitive to the actions that may lead you into the hellfire. And the things that you're going through at that particular point in time have now culminated itself to the point where you're saying, you know what? This is nothing compared to what I may have to deal with in the next life. Ya Allah. And what happens as a result? Ya Allah, aghfirli, Rabbi faghfirli, wa tub alayhi, Rabbi faghfirli, wa tub alayhi. You begin to ask Allah for forgiveness. Allahumma inni afu, Allahumma innaka afu, wa tuhibbu afwa wa'fu anna. You start asking all kinds. You think everything is istighfar you can think of. You want to institute that into your life. Why? Because you're more astute as to where you are and what's happening to you. And this is what he's saying. He says, through hunger, he consistently experiences Allah's tribulation. So you're consistently feeling different things, even if it's just the pains of hunger. It may not be something big. It may not be something physically draining. It may not be something where you're just sniffing food and things like that. But different people have different types of trials. It may be that you're just feeling the pains of hunger, and it's eating at you. But yet still, instead of going and getting that bite, grabbing that Snickers or that payday, that muffin, that donut, that piece of cake, a carrot stick, you keep trudging through it. You keep trudging through it. And you don't want to be the heedless. Habib Omar used to tell us, he said, remember Allah in those times where people are normally heedless. And remember Allah in those times where people who are not normally heedless are heedless. So, remember Allah in those times where people are heedless, where people are forgetful of Allah. Remember Allah in those moments. In those moments you're going to figure out for yourself. But then remember Allah in those times where people who are not normally heedless are being heedless. So people that you know are always in dhikr, always in prayer, always reading Quran, but there's a time when they're just not doing certain things. That's when you want to remember Allah. I.e. Jumu'ah. Between Asr and Maghrib, most people don't make dua. But the ulama has said that there's a time, a special time between those two times where dua is answered. So don't let that time just slip away. Between Asr and Maghrib and Jumu'ah. Or people getting up for tahajjud. Because most people are heedless when it comes to getting up and praying tahajjud. Or even like after breaking fast during the month of Ramadan. Because after Maghrib, after people break their fast and they pray Maghrib, nobody's trying to worship. People are trying to head out and get some food and get the big dinners going, or they're at somebody else's house. That's the time for prayer. And Tareem, after you get a little something to eat and we pray something Maghrib, we pray what? Tasbih. Immediately following, we pray Salat Tasbih. Most people who aren't Namahids, they'll pray Maghrib, but they won't, and they'll pray their sunnahs, but then they forget about Salat al-Awwabin. And most people don't even know what Salat al-Awwabin is. It's a prayer that consists of 6 rakats that comes after Maghrib, immediately following sunnahs. Well, you don't even say a word to anyone. You get up, you make your sunnahs, and then you begin your 6 rakats. In 2s. After every 2, taslim. Get up, another 2, taslim. Get up to another 2, taslim, done. There's a time where people don't know. Most people are heedless. And even people who might pray tasbih during Ramadan, outside of Ramadan, they're not praying anything. So they're not heedless, but the thing is, they're heedless at that time, so then don't be heedless at that time. You follow me? The next class is at 4 o'clock. I got like 3 minutes. The 5th, and we'll go through this quickly. The 5th, which is one of the greatest benefits, is breaking the other desires, which are the well springs of disobedience, and conquering the dictatorial ego. Dhur-Nun, radiallahu anhu, said, I have never been sated without ever disobeying or considering disobedience. As for the genitals' desires, their danger is well known. Hunger is enough to quell their evil. Whoever is sated does not control his genitals. If conscience prevents him, he still does not control his eyes. For like the genitals, the eyes fornicate. All acts of disobedience committed by the 7 limbs are because of the strength attained through satiation. Right? A wise man once said, no desire whatsoever will interfere with anyone desirous of Allah's pleasure who endures eating nothing but plain bread for a year. When he eats for only half his belly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lift the burden of lusting for women from him. Period. Aisha radiallahu anha said, the first innovation to occur after Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was satiation. Verily, if a people's bellies are sated, their egos defy them and turn to the world. The 6th is lightness of the body for prayer vigils and worship, and the removal of sleep that prevents worship. Indeed, the capital of happiness is one's lifespan. Sleep detracts from one's lifespan, thus preventing worship, and its foundation is excessive eating. Abu Sulaiman ad-Darani said 6 traits into the character of whoever is sated. Losing the sweetness of worship, right? Because all that sleep and you're tired. Difficulty in memorizing wisdom. No compassion for the creation, because if he is sated, he thinks that all of creation is sated. He says, heaviness of worship, because you don't want to have to get up out your seat, because you got the itis. The increase of desires, hanging around garbage while the rest of the believers hang around mosques. Because you want to be on the couch, and so you watch a bunch of TV. Or, we don't watch TV, but I'll be on my computer going through social media. I don't know which is worse. Come on, I read the news online. The 7th is lightness of financial burden. The ability to be satisfied with a little from the world and the ability to prefer poverty. Truly, whoever is satisfied with little is free from gluttony and does not need much money. Most worldly aspirations are thereby rendered obsolete. Whenever he wants to take a loan to fulfill his belly's desire, he instead takes from himself and abandons the belly's desires. Whenever it was said to Ibrahim ibn Adham radiallahu anhu that a thing was too expensive, he will reply, cheapen it with abandonment. I want to say something about this last part. In our life, we talk about renouncing the dunya. Now, there are always going to be people who have money, who have different things. Some people have renounced the dunya, but the dunya runs after them. And they just happen to get wealthy. There's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with having wealth. The issue is when the wealth is in your heart. So as the Ulama say, you can have it in your hands, but don't have it in your heart. If you lose it today, so what? You know that you'll continue and you'll move on and you continue to function. Some people act like when they lose $20, the whole world is over. You're running all over. Where's that $20? Where's that 20? Where's that 20? Okay, I gotta go buy me some food. You know, you're just running all over the house. You're looking everywhere. I got you. The issue is you can have dunya in your hand, but try not to have it in your heart. And sometimes those who are impoverished have what we call pride in poverty. They become prideful in their poverty. There's the story of a sheikh who all he had was a fishing pole. He had one student, one murid, and he would fish. That's the only way he ate, was using that fishing pole. He walked around with that fishing pole. He traveled with that. That was his walking stick. It was his means for sustenance. It was his defense. He used it for, fighting off the robbers. And then one day his student said, look, I've got to go into the city. And the sheikh said, I have one of my peers, someone I studied with, a very good friend of mine, lives in that city. When you go to him, give him my salams and ask him to advise me. So he says, okay. So he goes into the city. When he gets to the city, he finds this other scholar's home. It's a big house. It's huge. It's immaculate. Plants all over the place, little animals running around. The guy's got servants. And then he meets the sheikh and he says, yeah, sheikh, my teacher, my sheikh, is such a so-and-so. That's fulan. And he gives salams and asks that you advise him. And the sheikh said, okay. He said, tell him he's never going to reach Allah so long as he has that fishing pole. And the student says, Astaghfirullah! How you going to say that about him? Don't you know him? It's poor. He had nothing. He lives outside. He sleeps outside. That's the only way he eats and the only way he takes care of himself. How dare you say something like that when you got all of this? And ran out the house. Mad, furious. Like, how can he be a sheikh? He ain't no sheikh. So he finally gets back to his teacher, and his teacher said, mashallah, did you meet my friend? He said, yes, I met him. He said, did you ask him to advise me? He said, yeah, I asked him. He said, what did he say? You don't want to know sheikh. He's not a real sheikh. He said, no, wait. What did he say? He said, you'll never reach Allah so long as you keep holding on to that fishing pole. And the sheikh put his head down and then started crying profusely. He said, sheikh, why are you crying like this? He said, because it's right. Because I put more dependence upon this fishing pole than I do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes, even in our poverty, we find we have a little bit of pride. We think, because we've heard many brothers say, I'm more like the Sahaba than these other brothers. Because I'm poverty, I converted to Islam, I'm living poor, I got holes in my socks just like they had holes, although they mended this stuff up. So it's like we've taken a sense of pride or some kind of status because of our poverty, and that's not the way to go. We stay impoverished, meaning in terms of our hearts. We stay broken in terms of our hearts because, dunya's going to hit you. Our teachers, we can tell you straight up, our teachers have big houses in the Middle East. But if it burned down, they don't care. They'd be more than happy to leave Saudi Arabia and go right to a little mud house in Turin. And even if that house melted in Turin, they're fine with just sleeping in the masjid. Fine with it. Be right there with all of them kids and everything, all in a little corner in the masjid. because the dunya is not in the heart. So, we want to try to learn to discipline ourselves, discipline the nafs, and the way to do that, the first way of doing that, is through knocking on the gates of paradise. Are you ready for the challenge? Huh? No, I'm asking you. Are you ready for the challenge? Sisters? I only heard like one yet. Inshallah, I'm going to join you in this challenge. By Allah's permission, Sheikh Ud-Deen will have you back here. I will come back and I'm going to ask you, how did it go? And I want you to ask me, how did it go? We got to keep each other accountable, right? We're on this together. Inshallah, we're all walking on the plane of tawheed, on the oneness of Allah, returning back to Allah. May Allah bless us to walk that path together. So Sheikh had a question. Oh, that's what, I'm sorry. I just saw your finger go up. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't make out everything. So I apologize, but thank you. I was really waiting on him to show up. So alhamdulillah. May Allah bless us and guide us and strengthen us. And may we become people who enter through the gates of paradise. And may Allah continue to facilitate everything that we need in this life, inwardly and outwardly. Ya Rahman Rahim, alhamdulillah. Leave.